You weren't sure anything was wrong yet. Maybe a headache, maybe just tired. You hadn't said anything. You hadn't changed your routine. And your dog wouldn't leave your side, followed you to every room, pressed closer than usual, kept looking at you. Most people call this sweet. Science calls it something that medicine took decades to take seriously. And what your dog is actually detecting when you're sick is one of the most extraordinary things a living creature can do. The obvious explanation: they sense a change in your behavior. You're moving slower, resting more, your voice is different. And yes, they pick up on behavioral cues. That part is true. But behavior explains almost none of it, because dogs have been documented detecting illness before any behavioral symptoms appear, before the fever rises, before the cough starts, before you noticed anything was wrong. So what are they actually reading? There are 3 layers to this, and the deeper you go, the more extraordinary it becomes. The 3rd layer is the one that changed how medical science thinks about dogs entirely. The first layer: volatile organic compounds, VOCs. When your body is fighting illness, your cellular metabolism changes. Pathogens produce their own chemical byproducts. Your immune response produces its own. All of these changes alter the chemical composition of what you emit. Through your breath, your skin, your sweat, your dog's nose, with 300 million scent receptors, detects these changes at concentrations as low as parts per trillion. To put that in perspective, 1 part per trillion is equivalent to 1 drop of liquid in 20 Olympic swimming pools. Your dog can smell that. A landmark study published in PLOS ONE found that trained dogs could detect human stress biochemicals with 94% accuracy. A separate study in JAVMA found that trained scent dogs could detect COVID-19 infection with 94 to 96% accuracy in 5 to 10 seconds. 5 to 10 seconds. Your dog isn't reading your mood when you're sick. They're reading your chemistry. And illness has a smell, one that dogs have been able to detect long before we could measure it. Think back to a time you were getting sick and your dog behaved differently before you felt anything. Write it in the comments. I think most of us have experienced this and never knew what it meant. The second layer goes much deeper. For decades, anecdotal reports existed of dogs behaving unusually around owners who were later diagnosed with cancer. Licking a specific spot repeatedly, pressing their nose against one area, becoming fixated on a particular part of the body. Science finally tested this systematically. Researchers found that dogs can detect the odor signatures of breast, colorectal, lung, and prostate cancer in breath samples, urine, and blood. Not just detect, identify. A 2024 clinical study found that trained dogs could detect lung cancer in breath samples across multiple tumor stages, including early stages that traditional screening methods sometimes miss. Let that settle for a moment. Your dog may be able to smell cancer in your body before a screening test can find it. The medical community is now actively studying this. Clinical trials are underway. Organizations exist specifically to train medical detection dogs. In one study, researchers had dogs sniff masks worn by people who had either cancer or no cancer. The dogs identified the cancer cases with accuracy rates that outperformed some standard screening methods. We are not talking about a parlor trick. We are talking about a biological capability so precise that the medical field is now asking whether dogs could be deployed as a first-line screening tool in low-resource countries where expensive equipment isn't available. One case that stays with me: a woman whose dog kept persistently nosing at one spot on her leg. She had it checked. It was melanoma, caught early enough to treat completely. Her dog found it before any doctor. Has your dog ever fixated on one part of your body in a way that felt different? Write it in the comments. Some of these stories are important. Now the third layer, and this one changes the entire conversation. Most people assume that medical detection dogs are specially trained working dogs, elite animals with years of conditioning. A 2024 study tested something different. Ordinary household dogs, no special training, no medical conditioning. Could they detect illness in their owners? Researchers measured how dogs responded to their owners during healthy periods versus periods of illness. The results were significant. Untrained household dogs showed measurable behavioral changes around their sick owners: increased proximity, altered sniffing patterns, prolonged physical contact, before symptoms were externally visible. They weren't trained to do this, they just did it. Think about what that means for every dog owner who has ever said, "My dog knew before I did." They weren't imagining it. The data supports them. Your dog doesn't need to be a medical detection dog. They're already doing it, every day, every time they follow you into a room when something feels off, every time they won't leave your side. That's not just love. That's a biological response to chemical information you can't perceive. Think about the last time you were sick. Did your dog act differently? When did it start? Before or after you noticed symptoms? Write it in the comments. The timing in people's answers tends to be remarkable. None of this developed by accident. For 15,000 years, dogs lived in intimate proximity to humans. They shared our camps, our food, our sleeping spaces. The dogs that could detect when a human was sick, who could identify weakness, vulnerability, change, had information that was critical for the social dynamics of the group. Over thousands of generations, this sensitivity was refined, not just to human emotion, not just to human stress, to human biology itself. Consider what this means in practice. Every time your dog pressed against you when you were ill, every time they wouldn't leave the room, every time they stared at you with that unusual quiet intensity, they weren't being anxious, they weren't being needy, they were responding to a biological signal that you were emitting without knowing it, a signal that their ancestors learned to read over 15,000 years of sleeping beside sick and healthy humans alike. Your dog is not just emotionally attuned to you, they are biologically calibrated to you, in ways that took science until the 21st century to begin to measure. There's something in all of this that most dog owners don't know. If your dog suddenly begins behaving unusually around a specific part of your body, pay attention. Persistent licking, repeated nosing, unusual fixation on one area. This is not always anxiety or boredom. Veterinary behaviorists and medical professionals now recommend that if a dog persistently targets a specific location, particularly if the behavior is new and out of character, it warrants a medical conversation. Not panic, not certainty, but a conversation. Dogs have detected melanomas, breast cancers, and internal tumors before any human knew to look. That's not folklore. That's documented in peer-reviewed literature. Taking your dog's persistent behavior seriously costs almost nothing. Not taking it seriously sometimes costs everything. If your dog has ever behaved this way, please write it in the comments. And if you had it checked, write that too. These stories matter more than people realize. So the next time you're under the weather and your dog won't leave your side, keeps pressing closer, keeps looking at you with that particular kind of attention, remember what's actually happening. 300 million scent receptors are processing chemical information your own brain cannot access. Volatile organic compounds that signal cellular change, a biological alarm system refined over 15,000 years of living alongside human illness. They're not confused by what they're sensing. They're not anxious without reason. They know something has changed in your chemistry, and they are responding to it the only way they can. By staying close, by pressing against you, by watching you with that quiet, steady attention that has no human equivalent. They're not just keeping you company, they're reading you at a molecular level, and in their own way, in the only way they know how. They're telling you they know. On this channel, every week, we go deeper into the science of the bond between you and your dog, because they chose to spend their one life with you. They deserve to be understood.